it if you hear me holler. Making moves another day, another dollar. On the grind, I'm living good. What you expect? Just another one hit and with it. You can say that. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I see you on the Hudson. I see you, Honorary for Success. Trey Million, I see you. If you guys could do me a favor and just share this with anywhere between 3 to 5 of your friends, I gladly would appreciate it. If you guys can hear me loud and clear, let me get some thumbs up. Let me get some thumbs. Yo, 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 I hear you. Listen, listen, listen. Today, boy, do we have a show for you guys. If you guys could share this with 3 to 5 of your friends. Steve Babcock tonight. Steve Babcock tonight on the Hudson. The bar has been set. Hey, I see you, twin. I see you in the building. I see you. If you guys could just share this with anywhere between 3 to 5 of your friends, I gladly would appreciate that. I gladly would appreciate it. Listen, listen, boy, do we have a show for you guys tonight. I'm telling you guys. Hip Hop Forever Apparel is in the building. I see you. Thank you for joining. If you could do me a favor and just share this with anywhere between 3 to 5 of your friends, I gladly will appreciate that. But listen, Steve Babcock tonight, guys. Whoo! I reached out to him. He said, let's do it. He gave me the thumbs up on making this happen. And tonight on the Cashing in Dreams podcast, we are going to give you guys the show of your lifetime. First of all, I'm excited to have Steve Babcock on tonight, but I'm also excited for the 20th episode. The 20th episode, right, which is today with Steve Babcock. We have sponsors now, guys. Sponsors are hitting me up in the DMs, finding my phone number, calling me to sponsor their business. So before we get started into the show, I'm going to bring in the first sponsor of the evening. Steve is in the building. Bear with me 1 second, Steve, as we pay the bills with the sponsors here. Jarvis & Co. Digital Marketing Solutions, graphic designs, web designs, branding, labels and packaging, social media management, digital marketing, Go and build your brand with them. You can find them at www.jarvisdigitalco.com. That's JarvisDigitalco.com. Let them know that the Cashing in Dreams podcast sent you over there. I'm telling you, you guys can get everything you need right here at Jarvis & Co. All right, listen, this one is a little special to me here. We're going to bring the second sponsor in of the evening. Deep Within by Teresa Cox Bates. Listen, the ebook is finally here, guys. The ebook is finally here. Dig deep within. Find what it is that you want to do and just do it. It's just that simple. You guys can go to the website where it's deepwith/in.com. I'm telling you guys, I'm halfway through this book and this book is amazing. It has me pumped for today's episode with Steve Babcock. Go get this book, guys. Listen, whoo, if you guys could do me a favor and just share this with 5 to 10 of your friends now. I'm getting ready to bring Mr. Steve Babcock in. This is going to be an amazing episode. Make sure you have something to write with, because the gems that he is going to drop tonight, it will take you guys far. Let's bring him in. Oh, yeah, Steve Babcock. How's it going, my brother?
It's good. Good. How are you?
I am pretty good. Before we jump in to the interview, I want to let you know, I'm not sure if you recall who I am or how me and you actually started talking. But there was a post from a influencer a couple of years ago, I believe, and he was like, go and follow Steve Babcock. Just follow him. And I went on your Instagram page. I followed you and I said, hey, I'm following you because this influencer said to follow you. Now entertain me. And what you did for me was I was thinking I was getting entertainment, but you really became somewhat of a silent mentor. Like just watching what you were doing, how you move, how you engage with people on your social media, even down to being transparent and open with this. It's almost like a journal, to be honest with you, on your Instagram platform. And I was wild and excited for you to take on me and getting onto the Cashing in Dreams podcast. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Let's jump into this. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Babcock, advertising, content, strategy marketing, consulting, social media marketing, mobile marketing, content marketing, CEO of Made in House. Tonight's guest. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Steve Babcock. Yeah! Steve, how's it going?
It's awesome. I mean, considering everything that's going on in our crazy world, I can't complain. I got my health. I'm with my family. It's good. Yeah, making the most of it.
Listen, same on this end. I picked up my phone right at the beginning of the pandemic and started the Cashing in Dreams podcast, and I've been running with it ever since. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. My name's Steve. I've spent the majority of my professional life in advertising, working at advertising agencies on the creative side. So I started, a little bit of graphic design, but primarily as a writer. And as I grew up through my career, moved around a little bit. Most recently was in New York City, was the chief creative officer of VaynerMedia. Most everybody has heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was my boss and CEO. So I worked with him for about 4 years. And then, as you mentioned, last year, a little over a year ago, I started my own little company called Made in House, which is basically teaching. A lot of brands are finding value in having some form of content creation team or whatever in-house. But I came to realize, like, well, I don't know if they really know how to do it, or they could use some help figuring out how to do it better. And so that was just the germ of the idea that then became this little company I've started, and that's what I do. And that's pretty much me.
Love it. Advertisement is not a career that a lot of people aspire to do, but the ones that do tend to love and stick in this arena. What was it about advertisement that grabbed your attention?
Well, to be frank, it wasn't on my radar as a student. I only found out about advertising because I got a job at an agency in their mailroom while I was going to school. I wanted to go into film. I was always interested in. I thought I'd be a movie director. Wow. I really was like, I like entertaining and I like these kinds of things. But it really was like a friend of a friend was like, hey, here's a great job for school. You get to super flexible hours. And so I walked into this agency called DSW Partners back in the late 90s and just kind of was like, what is this industry? Like, this is like creative people. And so, yeah, I really fell into it kind of accidentally.
Wow.
And then I got a job. I kind of went from the mailroom. It's easier once you were in there. I was like, kind of got a job. And then that's the world that I've stayed in. Wow.
So when you say you started in the mailroom and then worked your way up to getting a job, briefly just speak on that. Because when you say mailroom, you got yourself in the building. I'm assuming you're walking around handing people their mail, and then all of a sudden you become this legend of an advertiser. Like, talk to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is, again, late 90s. So people got a lot of mail. There wasn't a whole ton of email yet. And you really, if there's one way to really know everybody at a large agency, it's to like get and sort and deliver their mail. Like, all right, this person's really into knives. He gets a lot of like knife magazines and catalogs, and this person's into all kinds of stuff. But so how my situation worked was, it was just really fortunate. The agency, while I was in the mailroom, the agency had they put on a scholarship contest for all students within the state, and you could submit a creative portfolio or maybe a strategy plan or whatever. And because I wasn't a salaried employee, I was eligible to submit. And so I was like, I mean, it really was more of like, I'm not looking for a job. That's 10 grand. Like, that'll pay for my school. I think I was about to get married. So I'm like, I need some money for the wedding.
Right.
And so I befriended this guy named Dan Orgill, who was an art director, a graphic designer there. And I kind of befriended him, and he would let me use his computer at night. And again, this is pre-laptop. So it was like Photoshop 4, like before there were layers or anything. So at night, I would go sit in his little cubicle workstation and put together a portfolio of just fake ads, and I kind of thought it was it was going to be a graphic design entry. I thought a little bit more, and anyway, submitted it, and a few months went by. I think I just sort of forgot about it. I don't know what their timeline was, and then all of a sudden I got this call to go up to the partners lounge. So there was on this one floor, it was about 500 or 600 people on this one floor. Half of it was like this partners lounge, and there was like 4 or 5 partners, and it was kind of like walled off there, and you couldn't get back there. There was like the assistant lady was like, anyway. But the only time one of my duties, I think it was like every other day, or I can't remember the cadence, but one of my duties was to restock the fridge in the partners lounge with beverages. And I remember it being very clear to me that the beverages, the cans had to be in a certain order and like labels out and perfect. So maybe somebody had like some like OCD, or I don't know why. It was like, but it was a thing. Or maybe it was just a big joke on me, but I did it religiously. So I tell you that because I remember when I got that call, the only thing that went through my head was like, did I forget to like straighten the cans? Like, I'm getting fired. Because I didn't even know that they knew who I was. And so I went up there, and much to my surprise, they had announced, they congratulated me. They said, hey, you won the contest. And then also they said, which was cool, because they just like gave me a straight up check. And then they also said, we'd like to give you a job we'd like to promote you out of the mailroom as a junior copywriter. So it was a pretty cool day to go home and just be like, wait a minute, I got 10 grand that'll pay for school and some on my wedding, and I have a real job. And so, so yeah, it wasn't necessarily like I was surprised by it, for sure. I was just kind of going for the money, and I was interested. But at that age, you're like, yeah, I'll take it. I remember it was like 20,000 a year, and you're just like, whatever, let's do it, So,
you remember the ad? Do you remember what you put together?
I do. I still have it, actually. It was because I worked in the mailroom. The mailroom was also called the business center. I just say mailroom because most people know what that is, but it was the mailroom. But then it was also like kind of like a little production area. So back then, whenever the agency would do presentations of like print ads and billboards and things, they would come down to me, and I would actually mount them with like spray mount on like a thin like foam core, whatever, right? So I kind of had all that at my disposal. So I remember I made these ads. They were all, maybe about that big. And they were just like print ads, right? And I mounted them to this little foam core. So you had a stack of them. And then, so it's super cheesy. But the concept was I went down to like a local grocery store at the deli. And I had them give me one of those like styrofoam trays that you put like meat in. And then I put my little stack of ads in there. And then I had them actually shrink wrap it. So it was like, shrink wrapped. And the top of it was just an image of like, just like ground beef texture, right? And then the little card on it was like 100% fresh ideas. It was like so cheesy, so horrible. But that was the idea. It was like, it's fresh ideas. And then once I opened it up, but I still have them. And one of the ad campaigns, was it was for, you know what, I'm gonna just show you. Actually, I have it right here
on the podcast. Let's do it.
Well, let me see if I have it on here. Maybe I don't, but I can show you really quick. Sorry. Because it's funny because I do have like the first ads I ever came up with. I'll see if you can see this right here. I'll move this over. Here we go. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. We'll try. But it was for a vegetarian hot dog company called Not Dogs. And so I made these little ads. Maybe you
Wow.
can see them.
With the carrot. Yeah.
Yeah, like the peas and the corn and
Yo, it works. It works. And look, I stopped eating meat about 2 years ago. So if I would have saw that, I probably would have gotten those no dogs.
yeah. So those were some of the fresh ideas that got me into advertising.
I love it. And it worked, and it got you where you are today from the beginning, right? You wrote a post, and it said everybody. Excuse me. Everybody has the next big idea, from tech, clothing, music, all attached to lifestyle, right? I read where you say, stop optimizing boring ideas. Talk a little bit about this.
Well, I think, in marketing, especially right now, because we have the tools that we have, the ability to, and the data that we have, right? The ability to hyper target different audience segments through social media, the ability to actually see how an ad is engaged with. Like, you could never do that before. Like, I couldn't really tell. I mean, we did surveys and like Nielsen reports on like who watched a TV commercial or who saw a billboard on the street. But now I literally can track you. Like, oh, I can see a certain number of people watch this percentage of the video, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think what happens, and what I've seen a lot in this industry, is there's sort of two camps. There's still this idea of like creativity, or I would say, the art of persuading emotions, versus just straight up data. Like, here's what we know they like, or here's what we predict they'll like, and just boom, boom, boom. Or the ability to optimize, right? Like, I can post a piece of content, or I can post an ad, and I can change it because maybe I'm seeing like I'm not getting the results I want. I get a lot of drop off after 3 seconds. Well, let me go in and re-edit. I'm going to optimize. And I do believe at some point we have to remember that we're emotional beings. We're humans, and that creative component is always going to be valuable. It's always going to be the thing that hits the head and the heart. And so to never, you see it a lot where it's like, I'd rather throw an execution out the door. Just be like, no, we've lost it. There's no longer an idea. It's not interesting anymore. Get rid of it and start over. But that whole point of that post was really like, actually focus up front. Really, 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 the number one priority of anything you do in marketing is to have a hook. Like, number one. If you have something that is uninteresting to start with, you're not going to optimize it to interesting. Like, really, 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 really sweat that time up front to believe you've got an idea that is interesting, engaging, and also, of course, solves a business problem. A lot of people forget that part too, and it's like, that's our business. Right. And so, yeah, that was really it. Of like, don't get too focused on just like optimizing something to the best that it can be if it's not interesting to begin with.
Gotcha. When I first read that, I was like, wow, that post is what really made me dig deep into your social media presence. And then that's when I started to realize, yo, this guy is really dropping gems on the low, but he's giving away all of the good information. And if you guys are not following him, you guys need to follow this guy that I'm speaking to right now, Steve Babcock. Your resume shows to come highly recommended. Like, when I was doing my research, I'm like, oh my, like, Red Thumb reminder. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I remember the Red Thumb reminder. He's worked with Geek Squad, Best Buy, Domino's, who we're talking to right now, guys. I don't know if you guys know, but this is the guy who actually created the situation to where how long it's going to take for your pizza at Domino's to hit the oven to knock at your door. Like, when I saw that, I was like blown away. I totally was, and I want you to speak on this domino situation. But the one that sticks out the most to me is the Meek Mill ad that you did around criminal justice reform and rewriting the Miranda rights. How was it working on this project? And do you believe that it made a stamp? Or the stamp that you guys were looking for, did it work?
Oh, I lost you. Sorry. Say the last part of that question again.
Do you believe how was it working on this project, and do you believe that it made the stamp that you guys were looking for?
Yeah, that one was really cool. So that was while I was the chief creative officer at VaynerMedia, and that was a whole new challenge for me. That was all of a sudden being kind of the leader of around a 200-person creative group.
Wow.
And one of the things that I had to understand, and this is a kind of to get to your question, one of the things I really had to develop there and understand is that my job was less about, you know, getting my fingers in the work in the creative, which is what I've always loved doing, and more about creating an environment to where other people can achieve that success. And I think a lot of creative leaders, at least in my experience, get that mixed up a little bit. It's like, well, now I'm in a position of power. I'm going to use that power to just kind of overbear everybody with what I want to do. My style is very different, where it's like I want to be very flat and very wide and empower. So I bring that up because there's an individual who's very much responsible for that. This guy named Ritesh Gupta. He and I worked at VaynerMedia together. One of the best documentarian film makers I've ever worked with. Some of the, probably 90% of the stuff that we did during my 4 years there, he was behind the camera and the mastermind. So this one actually came through him. You know, I remember I got a call from him one day and he's like, hey, and in fact, I don't know. He's like a buddy of a buddy. I don't know. He's like, they hit us up and they have this problem. They have this thing they want to make. They want to make a video, right? They knew they needed to make a video around this movement. And, you know, what was really interesting about it was, as we talked about it, you know, the number one thing that I think we both realized was like, I'm like, well, I'm completely the wrong person to be authoring this. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's important. It's hard as a creative director in advertising to be humble enough to go, I probably don't have the empathy or understand. I definitely don't. You know, it's something I can understand it from my perspective, but I can't fully understand it. It's impossible based on who I am. And so, anyway, so I think it was like kind of a strike of good luck or whatever. But Ritesh, I remember one day he came in because he would take the subway and he's like, dude, I found this woman. And it was this woman who we would kind of pass. She would do sort of like beat poetry kind of art in the subway, right? You know, and he was always kind of impressed with her. And he ended up talking to her. And she was, I think she was a grad student at NYU, and she was doing a thesis on criminal reform. She was African-American, and I mean, it was her whole thing. And he just happened to be walking by her, and he was like, we have a concept. We had the hook of like rewriting the Miranda rights. Like we knew that was kind of going to be the hook, but like, how do we write them?
Right.
And so we brought her in, really. We were like, do you know what advertising is? He's like, I'm like, okay, come on, we're going to pay you to come freelance. And so she joined the team, and really, like, her and Ritesh, you know, his sort of, you know, genius behind that camera. And that thing was made for like $12.
No way.
More than that. But I mean, but dirt cheap,
right.
We had our own studio, and just like the pieces of it, you know, where the things light up from behind were kind of shot differently and just put together. It was very simple production. And why I think it was powerful is obviously the point of the film was very, very powerful. Meek was very, very powerful. But I think all the credit really goes to, and I'm spacing her name and I hate it because I'd love to give her props right now, but was this woman who really came in. And I mean, I remember even Meek being like, who wrote this? Because this is awesome. Right. You know, and it was like she was a poet. She was really good at it. So in terms of Impact, it's always interesting, like impact of anything really. I mean, certain things you do, you have like, you can actually see pretty black and white, like it did this or it didn't do this or whatever. But I found in like social, similar with Red Thumb Reminder, but in like social campaigns or engagements, like it's kind of hard because there isn't really a metric. Like it's an emotional metric of like, I guess you could poll a lot of people. I don't really know, but I like to go into those situations and just believe that it changed somebody's perspective, and if one person all of a sudden saw like, wait a minute, this is bad. Like why do we stand for this? And maybe now my mind has been changed. Like that's worth it. But there is no, that's kind of one of the frustrating things about those kinds of things. You're like, I just want to change everybody right now, but you kind of can't.
I got it. I want to say that I watched that video probably while doing my research, maybe like 15 times. Like I was like, wow, and to just kind of thumb through your catalog. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this tops everything that you've done, but when I watched it and listened to it over 10 times, I was just highly impressed that you were involved with that, and it was huge that I had to bring that up, because in doing my research, a lot of times people bring up the dominoes, right? They bring up this, but then when you see this piece, when you look at the peanut truck jumping over things and things of that nature, but right, you put together some great ads, but this one just stuck out to me the most. I read you say the key is to get as many of your ideas into the real world as possible, because once they're real, they're worth something. Please speak a little bit on this.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time in advertising, and maybe just life in general, but in advertising, we spend a lot of time talking about ideas, putting together presentation decks, or just saying, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And I think the point of that advice really is, well, we now live in a time where technology has made it so that you can make content or turn an idea into a physical thing, whether it's a video or whatever. Like anybody can do that. We can do it on our phones, right? So we live in a time where you can make and deploy content for free, pretty much, or dirt cheap. And I think the point of that is like, when you have an idea up here or even around a boardroom with a few people or whatever, you really can get no value out of it. I can't, it's just theory, right? I can't see if it's working or not working, or if people will like it or won't like it, or if it will accomplish what it needs to accomplish or not. And I think sometimes it's safe to sit in that little circle, because it's like, that's your idea. It's awesome. But like, I like it just staying here because it's awesome here. I don't have to prove it. And I'm scared if people wouldn't like it. But I recommend, spend less time really developing ideas in your head and figure out how to, I call it the pilot mentality of like, how can I in a very inexpensive and quick way make a version of that idea and get it into the world, because now you can. Like there's no excuse. And then it becomes worth something, because then I get feedback. Then I see in a real world how the market reacts to it. And it's valuable. It could totally crash. Like, trust me, 9 out of 10 of my ideas totally crash and die, but that's value. Because I've learned why they, crashed and burned. And so I think that's a really important principle, I think, for marketers or for just personal brands or anybody, which is like, try stuff. Try it. Like, put it out there. Like, don't be so precious about things, because, in that space, you're not getting anything out of it.
How do you know when the right idea is in the room?
Well, I think that's interesting, right? Because I believe, and all my old friends at Vayner would make fun of me for this. I have a lot of sayings. I have a lot of phrases, maybe because I'm a writer. But one of them was the job isn't to be right, the job is to find right.
Mm.
And so to answer your question, you know, there are often times where as a creative leader, a creative director, you're in a room, you're talking about ideas, and your job is to make a decision, right? At some point, maybe you can't make 20 ideas. I've got to narrow it down. We only have the resources or whatever. And that's all subjective, and it's scary. And I've never liked that. Even as a creative leader, I never liked being the person that was like, okay, that person's in that position because their job is to be right. And I just how am I, and my perspective of just who I am as a human and the experiences I've had through life, how am I always going to be right? And instead go, okay, let's actually figure out a system. And that's kind of going back to your other questions, like finding right is trying a lot of things.
Right.
And it's not, and each thing you believe in, it's not just a volume of content for volume's sake. You're like, I believe in this. I'm going to believe in this. I'm believe this, but I'm only going to, invest or double down on things that the market has helped me understand have potential to be right. And so, yeah, I think the answer in general is, if your job is to find right, and you're in that room, so let's take just like the whole like posting on social media out of it. Let's say your job is to make a decision. You're president of the United States, and you got to decide what and you're in a room. And I think there's certain leaders that sit back and don't listen and go, here's what we're doing, fall in line. I find if your job is to find right, you are going to spend 90% of your time listening to everybody else's opinions of what they think you should do.
Wow.
And because that's just all you're doing is collecting data and insights. And even if people totally disagree with you, or if you disagree very much with that is still very important information to have, because it can tweak you and mold you and whatever. But at the very least, I think you have to, as a decision maker, a creative leader, you have to earn the right to make a decision by hearing everybody out.
Wow. And you hit it right on the nail, because I also read that you said, as a leader, it is your job to make the call, but the difference lies within how that final call materializes. So that's a great segue, because when I read that, I'm like, wow, it's really deep, to be honest with you. Like, when you wrote that, what I just quoted, what was going through your mind when you wrote that down?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember. Which is funny, because now that you mention it, the Steve Happens Instagram, the Steve Happens _light is just family pictures, but that Instagram kind of is like a journal. And I think every post it's made because something made me think that in that moment. I don't think many of them are just kind of random thoughts. They're very timely. I'm not sure, actually. I can't remember like if there was a moment that made me think that, other than that's just kind of as even through my career, through trial and error, I've learned, maybe as a younger creative director, that, one of the things is like when in advertising, as a creative, I think there's just some, like, you desperately want to get to a position where you get to make the decision. And as a young person, you underestimate that it's actually really sucks, because making a decision is hard. There's a lot of pressure on it, but whatever decision you make, you're going to upset half the people. Like, it's not a great, but in your immature mind, you're like, well, it's just, everyone else is like making the wrong decisions and killing my work, and I just want to do this. And, so I went through the phase, just kind of like everybody probably, maybe, that is just like, okay, this being, having this position means power, means I make the call, I make the decision, And I think maybe either it just got beaten out of me over the years, or maybe I've gotten wise, I don't know, but where I realized, wait a minute, my position is kind of more to like referee or choreograph.
Right.
All involved. Like, you really, at the end of the day, it's like I still have to make a call, but I've just I feel much better when I make a decision after I've heard all the possible perspectives. And I've also found that when you show others that courtesy, it's not even showing them the courtesy. It's actually very valuable for you to
Right.
and everybody. But when you involve people, when you show people that you're actually interested in them and their perspective, even when you make a call that doesn't agree with that opposite, I found that they're much more willing to follow, to say, you know what, okay, but with, you know, we disagree, but like, you know, versus the types that are like, I don't even want to hear you, do this, go. You know, it's like, and man, I would say I mean, there's a high percentage of times where I thought I've had the answer, and because someone else said something or whatever, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm actually wrong.
Right. Hey,
Let's do that.
you're big to I guess put ego aside to kind of know, you know, when you're right, you're right, and when you're wrong, you're wrong, and that's very powerful in leadership. You say talents grow when applied to the unfamiliar. What do you mean when you said this?
Yeah, I think I do kind of remember that. I think that was a moment when although I think it took me another year or so to fully do it, but that was a moment in my life where I kind of felt like, gosh, I have been, you know, different agencies and different positions, but I've been doing kind of the same thing for like 18 years. And I'm very comfortable with it. Like I'm very comfortable in an agency setting. And that was around the time when I started to build this idea of starting Made in House in my head, of like, you know, because I believe very much in this potential of this idea, and the trend of it just was like, it's there, it's there, it's there. And that was a little bit more of a note to myself, I believe, of like, you know, if eventually you're going to hit a fork in the road, and you're either going to say, no, I'm not going to do this thing that I'm uncomfortable with, that I don't know how to do. I've never had my own, I don't know what I'm doing. Or I'm going to just keep doing this thing that I know how to do. And so I just sort of realized, like, gosh, it's, you know, it's like muscles, you know, they build when you put them against more weight than they've previously lifted, you know, like, and I think that's very much the same thing of like, and I was really like, you know, I'm not the most, I think I'm good at like projecting confidence or whatever, but deep down, like I'm my worst critic by far. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to do this, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And it was really just like, well, the only way, I guess it's just like ideas. The only way you're gonna know is like, put it out there, go do it and try. And win or lose, you'll have built more faith in yourself by doing something that you didn't know you could do. And I'll, you know, in my life and in my career, like, you know, I know other people and surrounded by people who are much better at that advice than me, where they're always like, boom, boom. And I look at them like, man, you're just such a well-rounded, like, you know, and I, you know, because I have not done that a lot in my life, it's harder for me, I think.
Well, I've never heard no one put it in that text where you just said, I'm good at projecting confidence. Like, when you say I'm good at projecting confidence, speak a little bit on that.
Well, I think, you know, it's weird because I am confident, right? Like, you know, I believe, I have ideas that I very much believe in. You know, like I said, I started a little company based on it. And when I say little, I mean little, it's just me. Or, you know, when I step into a room to present an idea, if I believe in the idea, like, so it's not necessarily that I'm not confident, but I'm also like very aware of my inner critic, right? Of my, and so when I say I project, it means sometimes, even in my head, when I'm in a scenario where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, I will go, just put one foot in front of the other and open your mouth and just, you know, keep going, keep going, and keep going. And so even in a moment where, you know, I may be talking or speaking at something or presenting an idea or whatever, and someone might say, you know, wow, that guy's really confident. Maybe in the back of my brain, I'm like, well, it was, you know, touch and go there for a minute. I have no idea. I had a friend once say, which I really loved. He's like, I don't like the term fake it till you make it. And he rewrote it to mistake it till you make it. And I really liked that, which is like,
Yeah.
because you're not, I guess what I'm projecting, I'm not faking it.
Right.
You know, like I'm doing it and it's
Right.
real, but it's just like, it's right behind it is a whole bunch of nerves.
Wow. I love it. Now listening to you, if you can go back to the kid in that mailroom and give him the elevator pitch that would change his life, what would you say to this kid in that mailroom? What would you say to him?
Yeah, wow. You know, I guess I would probably say, well, I probably would have said something like, hey, start a social media website really called Face Journal or something. No, all seriousness aside, you know, I guess I would say this, like, you mean like advice for the career
Right.
that I then took? Okay.
For that 8-year-old or
Yeah,
however old you were at that time.
I would say, hey, you will save yourself a lot of unnecessary, just emotional discomfort by comparing yourself to other people in your industry. Or I would also say, one bit of advice is do not mistake another person's success as a lack of your own success. Right. You know, and in advertising, especially, it's very competitive. I mean, oftentimes it's like you're a creative team and you're actually competing against another one to try to get your idea into the meeting. And it's very easy to see other people, even peers or other agencies or just other people, be very successful, and to mistake that as your own failure. Like, well, why am I not that successful? Or why am I not this? Or why am I not this? And I really believe in that saying that, I don't know who said it, but it's all over Pinterest, probably on a plaque or something, like a painted plaque. That is comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that's really, really true. And I know throughout my career, you know, I've lost a lot of hair, and I've had a lot of heartache and times that just didn't have anything to do. Somebody else's success has nothing to do with my lack of success or success. And to be able to get to the point of where it's like, when you can get to a point where you genuinely can celebrate another person's success because it is that person's, and not resent it or want to belittle it because it kind of chips away at your insecurity, right? It's very easy. And we see this in my industry all the time. It's actually, and maybe it's in other industries and I don't know, but I doubt it. Our industry is so like, oh, do you see that campaign from Agency X? Like, it's horrible, da da da. And it's like, why are we doing that? Are we doing that to make ourselves feel better with where we are versus just like, can we just say it's good or we admire it, even though we had nothing to do with it? Like, yeah. And so I would have somehow pounded that into my younger self, because I think if I could have found that place earlier in my career, I maybe would have more of my hair. I don't know.
You know what? I might be on the same way.
A lot of stress and anxiety here. So
right, it really is, but it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work and dedication. And just a segue, you are the 20th episode on the Cashin' and Dreams podcast. We did 20 of these. You heard me when we first started this, but this episode actually gained sponsorship, and nice. I'm super excited about that, this small win, and we're just growing. We're taking it day by day. So I want to shout out Jarvis and Company, again, digital marketing solutions, graphic designs, web designs, branding, label packaging, social media management, digital marketing. Go and build your brand with them, as well as Deep Within. The ebook is finally here, guys. Dig deep within. Find what it is that you want to do and just do it. I'll post both of their websites on this link, and you guys could go and tap in with them. So yeah, it's crazy when you sitting in that room, right? And you're like, but you know what? I don't know if that's just a human thing or is that just somewhat of a hate thing where you're sitting down and you're like, did you just see that peanut ad? Like that guy made that truck jump over the mailman, and you know what I mean? It's. I think sometimes a small part of that is hate. Like they really wish they were a part of that. So when you just said that, it really made sense that what they are doing is they have no clue on how to project the confidence that they lack, that you just said, right? It's something there that they don't have. And on your end, because you can project that confidence, you know, I'm about to do this red thumb idea. I'm about to create, you know what I mean? I'm so far ahead of the game that I'm not even really paying a good job, right? On to the next. Great yeah. job. I could definitely dig that. I love it when you say become a master of being a beginner. Elaborate a little bit on that. When you say become a master of being a beginner, talk a little bit on that.
Yeah, actually, I remember doing that post as well. And, I think that was really inspired from the industry that I'm in. And there's over the last, 10 years, especially, like, my industry has changed dramatically just based on the mediums that we now have, right? I mean, mobile and social over the last 10 years just became a whole, like, it's completely night and day. And what I would see a lot in the industry are people or agencies or talent, whatever, that really are like, no, I'm sticking to the things that I'm good at doing. I know how to make a television commercial, or I know how to do this or this. And I would look at that and go, okay, well, that's great. But like, there's all of these new things that it's really important that you have understanding of and hopefully an interest in, because that's where we are. Like, it's new medium. That's where culture is. And so market and brands need to be there. And I guess I just realized that, like, the more you get comfortable with restarting, and going and trying a thing that you don't, being new at a thing, the more you do that, the broader your horizons will be. And so I think that was really inspired there by, like, get really good. And by that, I just mean comfortable. And that means you gotta be okay. Like, especially in advertising, it's like, man, you're maybe this, guy who's worked in the business forever. You've made the best commercials ever, and you're known for this, Well, guess what? We need to make a TikTok campaign, like, get really good at going, like, cool, I don't know this. And I want to begin and I want to learn. And so I guess it's just basic of, like, get good, get comfortable with doing things that you've never done, because I kind of think that's just progress. Right. The more stuff you do that you've never done, the farther you're going to go. Got
it. Wow. Let me tell you a little story that I went through. My brother-in-law calls me up one day, and he's like, he's in the real estate. He's in the Air Force, and the Hawks were applauding veterans. This was, I want to say, last year around this time, right? And he was like, listen, man, come with me. We're going to have floor seats. We're going to listen. And there's this room where you go in, and I'm not going to tell you what the room is like. Just know that we are going to be in the room, right? So I'm like, okay, so we get there, and we in this first room, and it's people applauding people, and drinks are going on, and veterans are in there. And I'm like, yo, are we in the room yet? And he's like, nope, we're not in the room yet. And then this part of the segment ends, and we go to the floor. And we go down this special elevator. We're in there with big time celebrities, and I'm like, okay, is this the room, the elevator? He says, nope, not yet. We hit the floor, and I'm on the floor with all these basketball players, and I'm like, bro, is this the room? And he was like, nope, not yet. And we walk into this room where they serve the food, the free food, and all the free liquor, right? And I'm looking around in the room, and now everybody is in the room, right? I read your post always be the person everyone wants in the room. How important is this to you?
I think it's the number. I think it's the barometer of whether or not you add value to a situation, right? You know, because I think all of us as humans, you know, lack some self-awareness. Like, you know, like I want to believe that I need to be in that room. A decision needs to be made, or there needs to be some inspiration, and you think a little bit about like the people you don't want in the room. And the room to me is, in that particular context, is just the place where a decision needs to be made, or where work needs to happen, or progress needs to materialize. You know, usually in advertising, it's like we're just in a room, we're just brainstorming, you know, like we don't have the answer, we got to have it. And there's really two types. And I don't know, boss, that would call the one type a speed bump. There are always those people in the room that all they do is just be like, well, that won't work, or, you know, here's why, or better. There's just sort of, they add just the negative perspective to everything.
Right.
And I always liked that. This old boss of mine, Rob Riley, who's amazing, very, very talented dude. He would always, I'm pretty sure he was what he called. He's like, you know, I always do my impression of him. Hey, you're being a speed bump. And it was just like, you're slowing us down.
Right.
And you didn't want those people in the room. But what you do want in the room is the person who has good ideas, it wants to hear everybody's good ideas, is optimistic, right? Because sometimes those rooms are dire. Sometimes we are up against an insane deadline, or our client is really mad. We got, you know, so you want someone who's like, it's awesome, we're going to solve this, you know, to lift everybody up and make everyone feel confident. But I've always found, you know, I think everybody thinks, you know, oh yeah, I want to be in the room, but it's really kind of like, if you were able to do like a private poll, you know, around with all your colleagues, like who, you know, when you have to make a decision, or when there is you know, when it's on the line, who's the team of people you want in the room? And I think, you know, it's kind of like my number one advice in business and leadership is like, just be that person.
Wow.
That has those attributes to where people, you always want you in the room, because you help elevate everybody in that room, and you're very solution focused. You're not a speed bump. You're very positive. You're optimistic. You have good ideas. You're listening, all of those things. And when you're not in the room, you know, be that person where everyone's like, yeah, you know what, we need Steve, you know, you know, I don't know if I'm that person, but maybe.
It's funny. I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Mario Armstrong a few weeks ago, and he kind of, you call it speed bumps, he called it dream killers, right? Yeah. And he said that the dream killers could actually be someone that is right now in this room with you, whether you're at home, you know, and you're right. That idea is like, Lawrence, you're about to interview Steve Babcock? Are you crazy? Like, who do you think you are? You know what I mean? And we hear, not to say that anyone said that, because everybody was excited about this, and I applaud you again. But yeah, I compared the two, speed bumps and dream killers. And guys, I bring a pen to every interview, and when you see me looking down, I'm writing down what everybody is saying when I'm interviewing them. So I hope that you guys bought a pen. I actually was going to paint my thumb red. I was going to paint my thumb red to kind of remind me, hey, keep taking notes. If you could rob a cemetery for a piece of greatness, who would you rob, and what would you take from them?
Wow. What a question. Geez Louise, you stumped me. If I could rob a cemetery
for a piece of greatness, who would you rob, and what would you take from them?
Okay. I would rob Such a weird question, though, right? Because you're like, well, you're breaking the law. You can't go rob. It's like
Or whose
very,
grave would you dig up?
I know. Whose grave would you desecrate and then
Right.
steal whatever there is? And then, no, I get the idea. So there's an individual. He's a religious figure. This guy named David O. McKay, and what I would rob is, if I'm doing this question right, is a philosophy that he practiced and preached and was very proud of. That is, and it was a phrase that basically said, and I'm going to screw it up now because you had me all you got me all flustered. But basically, the phrase was, no other success can compensate for failure in the home.
No success can compensate failure in the home.
Right. And I've tried, and I wasn't very great at that in the early parts of my career. I would definitely be, I remember actually a moment where, and I worked at some agencies that kind of prided themselves on, like, we never go, we're workaholics. We like the most important thing in this world was the ads we were making and the accolades and and for me, really, like, I wanted so desperately to have the rest of the industry see me as something, like to be really, really important. And I remember one day, or it was a course of some days or whatever, but where I started to, no worldly success can compensate for failure in the home. That's the quote. Thank you.
Love it.
Where, and for me, it was like, okay, I'm achieving my goals from a career perspective. I'm on this pedestal. I'm working at this, at the time I was at an agency called Crispin Porter Bogusky, and it was really it's kind of like the pinnacle of moment and agency of making this kind of work. Everyone wanted to be there, and I was very proud that I was able to be there. But man, and I'm a dad. I have 3 kids, and I remember just kind of like things just collided. Like I was like exhausted, and and realizing, maybe if I was honest, like, I'm just not here. I'm not here for my family. I'm never And I remember, I kind of had a little bit of an emotional breakdown or whatever. And I was emotional and talking with my wife because I was just trying to figure it out. I'm like, I want to be important, thinking, in my career and in my field. And she just said something that struck me. She was just like, you're the most important thing in the world to these 3 kids.
Wow.
And, and it really was like, wait a minute, like, what? Wow. What does it mean to be important? And so anyway, it's something I'll always continue to work with. And I think any father or provider, whoever is, if you have a family and this, it's a balance. You do need to be successful. You're providing for this family, but I do think that quote I really like, and I've tried to apply it to the best of my ability of, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I could win the biggest advertising accolades of all time and be on the cover of Ad Week or whatever, but if I'm a failure to my kids, if I don't, that's number one duty, they won't compensate for that. So I've really tried to find that balance and go, well, number one is I'm a dad. Like, that is my number one job / calling. That's my responsibility, and it's the hardest job in the world. But
I'm with you. I got the baldy. I have four kids, so I can definitely relate to this quote and to your answer here. Started at 16. I'm 38.
Wow.
My firstborn is 22 years old, and I raised him pretty much on my own until me and my wife got together about 14 years ago. But that's what it's all about at the end of the day, right? Even like now my youngest, he might see me walk by with the ring light and the camera. He's like, all right, Dad, you're getting ready to go do your show, all right? So I can definitely relate, and I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna actually rob you from that quote that you just robbed.
I feel bad that I like desecrated a grave and had to dig. I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna rob you from that. Now, you want to know something? I don't know if it's just me or if Instagram is realizing that this is what the Cashin' and Dreams podcast is about, or if this is just a new upgrade. At one point, they were cutting me off right at the hour, and they're no longer doing that. I'm not certified, but let's applaud
Instagram
for not having to jump in and jump out. And we're gonna knock on wood that this continues, because I promise you, I have like hours of content broken up into pieces due to that. So let's applaud Instagram for allowing me to go over the hour. I'm not going to keep you too long. I see that you're over there. You're building some great artwork, benches. I don't know what your intentions is with this piece, but that Manhattan piece that you just put up, is that like where you did this Manhattan piece of? Amazing, bro. Like, I don't know what you got going on over there with that, with this craft that you got, but can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
All right, gotcha. Yeah. That Manhattan piece is amazing. Like, you put that together by hand?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
I think I've never been like an artist. I've been creative, and I'm artistic, I guess, to some degree. And I liked, I don't know. I think it really wasn't until we moved out east. I don't know why, but I started to get, I guess it kind of started with like, I don't want to pay someone to come and do a handyman I can figure this out. There's YouTube and Anyway, I started to really get into like building, like wood, like anything I can just find at Home Depot. Like, I'm just like, all right, lumber, here's this, and making things, and then making practical things. And it just became like a new creative outlet for me.
Right.
And then when we moved back to, right at the beginning of COVID, we actually absconded back to our house in Colorado. And it's, now we have, it's a bigger space, and I have like this big garage and everything. And so I've just kind of like turned it into like a wood studio where I'll just, between projects and things, or between work, I'm like, because everyone's home, I'm not traveling. And so I'll get an idea, and I'll just it'll just pop in my head, and I'll be like, cool, I'm going to go make that. I'm just my favorite place in the world is Home Depot. And there's one like right down the block. So I'll just go to Home Depot, get things I need, and make it. That one was our basement. My wife is a personal trainer, and she's really trying to build up her personal training business, which is, I'm going to really start helping her with this. She's great at it. But part of it was, we have this huge unfinished basement here. And so I've just been finishing it and turning it into her gym, so she can come in. Anyway, there was this one big wall, and she had just asked, she was like, I wish we had some artwork there. Like, let's go buy like a picture of, Manhattan to just remind us of that time we lived there. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go buy a picture. Like, okay, I just had an idea of like, I bet I could do this thing where I did these wood. And so I just kind of downloaded a picture of the skyline. That particular image is like from Brooklyn, looking kind of towards downtown, and just kind of traced it, kind of made a rudimentary version of it. But yeah, I just made that yesterday. So
wow, listen, it's stunning. Seriously, well done, Steve. Someone just said that in the comments, and since I'm in the room with you right now, right? I would suggest that it's a craft right now, but I would personally buy that New York paint, sculpture, whatever you want to call it, that you put up on that wall. Why don't you just put it up one day and see if anybody would be willing to buy it and what that ticket would be on that? I promise you would get probably, I know you would sell that thing for at least over $1, right? So
yeah, the the cost of shipping would be the expensive part. It's big. It's heavy.
Yeah,
It's all wood.
it's nice. It's nice. I'm not going to keep you too long. Two more questions for you, and then we're going to wrap this up. Look, someone said, "Amen." I'd buy that. Wow, the same. Look, here we go. We got $2. $2 going once, $3 going once, $5.
Sold $4.
Right, sold. Now we got to explain to his wife, where did this painting go to? I mean, this picture, right? So, two more questions. Well, really one more question, and then something that I want you to leave on the Cashing in Dreams podcast. Steve, when you hear the quote, and I don't know if you actually, I heard you say somewhere when it comes to interviews that you typically don't like to get the questions ahead of time because you don't want to be, producing these questions and answers in your head. But since the top of COVID, I'm gonna break it down for you so you can get an understanding of what I'm about, right? So I had been working in finances since I was 18 years old, right? And that's, what I've been doing. And it got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore, right? Really was getting sick and tired of being in this particular room and just getting beat down every day, right? And I wrote a quote down on a piece of paper the size of a copy paper, right? I wrote this quote down, and the quote I wrote down said, "Create your own foundation or forever live on the plantation." Now, when I wrote this quote down, I wrote it down to motivate myself, really to build up the courage to step out of this current situation. And like you say, talk to myself, to tell myself to put one foot in front of the other foot and go make it happen. When you hear the quote, "Create your own foundation or forever live on the plantation," Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's great. I mean, I remember, actually, it was a fortune cookie once that I got, and I think I kept the little thing, but it's a classic saying that was like the best way to predict the future is to invent it.
Woo!
And I think that's very, very true. There's a sort of a prison, if you will, that we all live in called the present, which is just, and maybe that's a bad term for it, but it's like we're here,
right?
And we can either progress, meaning whatever that is, and that's what I think is really important, especially in this world where there are a lot of voices and there are a lot of influential people who are, tell you how to live and what success is and etc. And I think it's really important, first of all, to realize no two successes are the same, or no two happinesses are the same. I would always, I worked with the king of hustle for many years. And, and I would always say, like, my hustle, I hustle so I can get home by 6.
Ooh.
That was my hustle.
I love it though.
and his hustle is very different, and he's very, very successful and very, very wealthy and very, very, but it's like, right. And so you could look at us both and go, okay, well, clearly that guy's way more successful. And I don't, necessarily think so. He has more money than me or whatever, but like, so I think that's number one, is like not to comparing what people want and what they think and what will make them happy, or just sometimes it's like, I just want to believe in myself or this. And so I would say, when COVID really hit, I remember there was like some, at the beginning, or maybe, whatever, there was a lot of posts that were just like, man, during this downtime, if you don't start that thing you've always wanted, you're a loser or whatever. I don't know. It's like basically like, right. And I remember that hit me in a really bad way, where I was just like, you know what? Like, if you can get out of bed, or whatever, like, this is a crazy time. Maybe you lost your job, like all kinds of stuff's going on. The last thing you need to hear is someone say, oh, the only way, this one route, starting that side hustle is the one way that, and so I guess I would say that is the sorry, the way your quote was, say it again. It's
create your own foundation,
right?
Or live on the plantation.
Oh, It's a shirt.
Yeah.
Nice. I would say the foundation is the thing that is subjective and should be appreciated based on its individual nature.
Mm.
Because where somebody's foundation is to be, to create a legacy or to be this super or whatever, or maybe it's as simple as like, man, for you, it's like, I want to create this media channel. I believe in the show, and you wanted to create that.
Right.
And some people, their foundation is literally just getting through the day.
Mm.
And it's like, got it. And in all of them, it literally is just like getting over the starting line. Like, try step 4. If every day, you could go to bed and go, man, I advanced the ball. I moved forward. Maybe it was a baby step, or maybe it was just a mental step, or
Right.
maybe it was like, wow, I did my first episode, or I did my 20th, and I now have. So I think it's a great saying and a great sentiment. But I think what's most important about it is to appreciate and understand the subjectivity of foundation, because we as a culture create sort of, it's easy to go like, oh, that's the foundation.
Right.
Just because that foundation is somebody else's, it doesn't have to be yours.
Correct.
Find yours. And I think, sorry, let me see your shirt again. I want to get the phrase right.
So it says, create your own foundation.
So, okay.
Ever live on the plantation.
So again, I think I love that saying. I think one of the most important parts is the 2 words, your own.
Mm.
And I think that's really important. Like I said, right. In a world where everyone's telling you how to be and et cetera, it's like, be you, but aspire to those things, have those foundations, have those goals, have those dreams,
right,
and progress toward them. And no one, they don't have to be somebody else's.
Wow, I love it. And I'm going to show you something real quick in regards to what you said in that fortune cookie that you was talking about, right? So now at the company that I was working at, right, what happened was, I felt that quote would offend somebody that would walk by my cubicle, right? So what I ended up doing was I ended up writing it down. I took it from the copy paper and I wrote it down on a piece of paper the size of a fortune cookie, right? See the fortune cookie? On the size of a fortune cookie. And I decided when I started to put these shirts out at the top of the pandemic that I was going to create my own fortune, right? And when you buy the shirt, Create Your Own Foundation or Forever Live on the Plantation, which is on the cashandreams.com site, you get a fortune with this shirt, right? You crack it, one of the best cookies in town. I don't want to have to be chewing the cookie in your ear, but check it out. Create Your Own Foundation or Forever Live on the Plantation. Do you think this is corny?
No, not at all. That's cool. Super cool.
Appreciate you. Listen, I'm not going to hold you up too long. Around the 10th, probably the 5th or the 6th episode, we end the show out with a hint of inspiration to everybody that tuned in and all of the replay gang that's going to listen to this. What would you drop on the Cashing in Dreams podcast as a hint of inspiration?
My hint of inspiration would probably continue that theme, because I find it really, really important of do not allow yourself to don't compare yourself to others. You can learn from others, you can be inspired by others, but stop short of comparing yourself to other people, because there's no 2 circumstances that are the same. I know it appears that your neighbors have the perfect life and the perfect marriage, and then your other neighbors have the perfect job because they've got the greatest car, or this person online who you follow obviously has the best life in the world, and all of those things. And they may all be true, but it has nothing to do with you. And I think that's really, really important to be who you are, and to be really, really, really proud and accepting of that, and to, in your own world, you know, try to further yourself, try to better yourself, but don't. Like I said, it's easy to get wrapped up in that comparison and trying and wanting to be other people's successes. So be very proud of you as an individual and the things that you're trying to do, because anything you achieve or any challenge you overcome is amazing, right? It might be different. It might not be Instagram worthy. It's still amazing. And go to bed every night. And whether you're religious or not, some people pray, some people don't, but maybe make a list, keep a little notepad, and just every night, just kind of write down the things that you felt you accomplished or felt good about, and it's small things like, wow, I feel really good that I reached out and texted that person that we haven't spoken to a long time, and I wanted to make amends for something, you know, whatever it is.
Right.
You know, it is progression. But remember, it's progression at your pace.
Listen, I am super thankful to you for this interview. One of the things that stuck out with me in this interview is the fact that you embrace wanting to leave a legacy behind for your children and your wife, and you care on how they look up to you, right? And I applaud you for that, because that is, you know, my number one goal. I want to just leave you on this note, and when you get the chance, or if this ever comes back and you're sitting down and you're in some sort of a funk and you go back to that journal, just know that there was someone who was looking at you as a silent mentor, and now you have become my mentor, and I appreciate you for that, for giving me the opportunity to speak with you right here on this platform. You could have said no and been building other stuff, dealing with the family, but you're no longer one of my silent mentors. And I really appreciate you, Steve. Continue to do what you do. You do a great job at everything you do, from the ads to the house. I saw a picture of you and the whole family out together. You guys look amazing. I can see why you lost. I can see why, but you're holding on. So I applaud you on that. Thank you very much for joining the Cashing in Dreams podcast. Till next time. Look, Mr. Meaningful Work, he just jumped in. You missed it, but guess what? It's always the replay. It's always the replay. And don't worry about it. I'll actually send it to you when we get off here. But it was a pleasure, Steve. Till next time, guys, remember, create your own foundation or forever live on a plantation. Thank you guys for joining. Steve, I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to just say one more thing to these guys. Got to let the sponsors get their 2 seconds in, and then we're out of here. So thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Wow. That's Mr. Steve Babcock. Listen, guys, I'm just going to shout this brother out. Mr. Meaningful Work. He actually just interviewed Steve on yesterday. And it was an amazing show. And you guys need to go check in with this guy on the Hudson. Thank you very much for checking in. Everybody that checked in, thank you very much. Again, I'm super excited. This is the 20th episode, guys. The 20th episode. The last episode, we interviewed a gentleman by the name of Mario Armstrong, 2-time Emmy Award winning for the Never Settle show. And I was speaking to the gentleman who actually just applauded on the Hudson, and he said, yo, the bar has been set. And I reached out to Steve, and Steve was like, let's do it. And then all of a sudden, boom, we started to get the sponsors rolling in. So I'm just going to shout out the sponsors. I'm going to bring their post in, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Let's go here. So we're going to bring in, boom, Jarvis and Company or Co. Digital Marketing Solutions, graphic designs, web designs, branding, labels, packaging, social media management, digital marketing. Go and build your brand with these guys. I'm telling you, you have to work with these guys, right? And then one that I am actually super excited and super proud about, Deep Within. Listen, guys, the ebook is finally here. Dig deep within. Find what it is that you want to do and just do it. It's just that simple. The website is right there, www.deepwithin.com. You guys, listen, check in. Listen, I'm telling you guys, at the beginning of this pandemic, I started the Cashing in Dreams podcast. Throughout the Cashing in Dreams podcast, we've actually partnered up with Mario Armstrong, and we're going to be working together to do a keychain affirmation, an affirmation pocket keychain ring. All of a sudden now the sponsors are checking in. The interviews are getting bigger. To God be the glory, guys. To God be the glory. You guys go get this book. Till next time, create your own foundation or forever live on a plantation. Jarvis & Co.'s website, www.jarvisdigitalco.com. You guys check with them and go get this ebook. And also, guys, on the 15th, hold on one second. This is another little shameless plug, but we're going to go ahead and just throw this in while we have the opportunity. November 15th, Bright Screen Studios right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Felicia Shoddick's pop-up shop. It is going down. When I tell you, Cashing in Dreams will be in the building. You can come and get your merchandise. Listen, it's going to be a whole slew of people there. Listen, check in with Felicia Shoddick, Bright Screen Studios, Sunday between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m., 554 North Avenue, Northwest Atlanta, Georgia. Listen, you guys got to come out and support. That's where you will be able to get the merchandise, cashingindreams.com. The link is in the bio. If you guys want to get the Create Your Own Foundation or Forever Live on the Plantation merch, please check in. This shirt is or this sweatshirt that I have on, I have sweaters, I have masks, I have t-shirts, all different colors. But when I put this on and I look down at this shirt, it's a reflection, right? When I read the fortune cookie that comes with the shirt, it's a reflection of what it is that I want to do. You heard him say it. You don't have to worry about everybody else's foundation. Just create your own and be happy on the foundation that you built. Till next time, guys, again, create your own foundation or forever live on a plantation. Thank you and have a wonderful night.